Virtually every day of the year, twice a day, this chopper, packed with high-tech equipment, flies over the Denver area to monitor the traffic for 9 News TV and KOA radio. We were invited on board to see some of the typical incidents that happen on a cold, rush hour morning.
Now, I got the Suburban was going northbound. All right, I've got this car off coming up to our 4 o'clock behind it. Okay, they're right by the, going by the trucks, the renter trucks. All right, I've got the one car. I don't know who he's chasing here.
Traditionally, what we do is we're a service. We try to provide a service to alert people to a potential problem, provide them an alternate route, and try to save them some time. We try to warn people to get out of the way if we're lucky enough to be over or in the area. The other thing that we do, and we don't do it intentionally because we're not in the police business, but we will let officers know where the pursuit is so that they can back off the number of vehicles needed to pursue. They will not outrun the helicopter. We have too much fuel, and of course we have the wonderful radio, so sooner or later we will be able to tell law enforcement where that car is without putting any more officers than necessary in danger.
What have you got inside to allow you to monitor what's going on?
Well, inside, what we do is in the back, we've designed a custom panel, and let me go around the other side because I want to show you exactly what capabilities we have. Just very briefly, these radios here are a series of radios in the 400 megahertz band, 450. We have 800 megahertz, we have 900, we carry 600. We basically have all the VHF frequencies, the 150s. We have, of course, the aircraft radios, and then we have special police radios that we carry, but Tony in the back seat is constantly listening to all these frequencies, and so he's scanning different frequencies, fire, state police, sheriffs, anything and every, you know, even medevac aircraft, hospital frequencies. So anytime something goes off and he hears a trigger word like chase or need help or there's an accident or whatever, he's able to quickly discern which frequency he's listening to, and then he'll point me, he'll say, Al, we need to get over here. This morning we had a chase. And he said, I'm hearing something on the scanners. We've got a high-speed chase in Commerce City. We need to get over there right away.
What you're looking at right now is the aftermath of a high-speed chase that happened on a Friday morning right in the middle of the rush hour. And of course, that's probably an officer's worst nightmare, a stolen car, teenagers, high speed through heavy traffic. And this is the aftermath of the chase. What happened is they had an accident involving a couple of cars. Thank God, no serious injuries, but the vehicle that was being chased rolled over. So they had to bring in the rescue squad, make sure that the people, everybody, the fugitive as well as the individuals that were in the innocent bystanders, that they were okay. And what you're looking at right now is the rolled over car that the officers were pursuing at very high speeds right through an industrial area. It's called Commerce City, just to the northeast of downtown Denver. Some very high speeds, and thank goodness nobody was killed in this one, and the good guy catches the bad guy, and then of course you see all of the other officers arriving on the scene.
All right, it's rolled over. All right, they got into an accident. That's why this guy was running up here. All right, they're rolling tape. Okay, the chase has ended at 104th, Highway 2. It is a red Isuzu. It is rolled over onto its left side. The right top window's open. And you got detectives now and everybody in here. From 58th and Washington to 50th and I think it was Tejon, clipped a fence and they called it off there. This one started on Highway 85 at the refineries.
And we had a chase about a year ago, and the police chased him, and it got to the point where it was dangerous because they were chasing him at 100 miles an hour on the freeways. And what happened was that we got over him, we saw where the guy was, and because it was during rush hour, the police said, we're giving up the chase. We were able to talk to the police, and we told the police, we'll follow this guy, and when he stops, we'll point you in the right direction to apprehend him. And what happened is that he went right to his house, the idiot. He went right to his house. The police came up 5 minutes later, knocked on the door. The guy's let out in the handcuffs, and he's looking up going,
uh-oh, duh.
And you know, I mean, it was so funny. It was picture perfect. And so we're able to help police that way. You know, sometimes we'll mention that we're doing a live police chase so that we can warn people that are listening to us on the radio that behind you, look in your rearview mirrors. You know, you've got some guy that's trying to get away from police, and he doesn't care what reckless abandon, erratic behavior he's got to take to get away from police.
How good do you think Colorado or the Denver metro area drivers are?
I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll give them a 5. What's happened here is that we have so many new people. Colorado and metropolitan Denver, we call it the Front Range. It goes 100 miles to the north and 100 miles to the south, has enjoyed tremendous, unprecedented growth. So we have drivers from New York, we have drivers from California and Texas, and everybody's just a little bit different. They haven't all gotten on the same, I think, wavelength right now. Our biggest problem is the left turn. The light turns red, and for 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds, cars continue to make left turns. Signaling and following too closely are still very, very big problems here.
How does driving differ around the United States?
We have a state patrol in Colorado, the Colorado State Patrol, and the chief of the patrol is a gentleman by the name of Lonnie Westfall. And Lonnie Westfall will fly with us from time to time, and he professes that the worst driver out there is the young female in her 30s in the sports car who isn't very, very nice to the trooper when the trooper approaches and says, "Good morning, ma'am, do you know what you were doing?" The response usually is, "I'm late, give me the ticket, let me out of here." So, and I find that statistic just a little bit interesting, but that's what the Colorado State Patrol has told us.
You can see the road rage that now psychologists are starting to identify, because what happens is that people are in a hurry. They don't anticipate that there's going to be an accident. They know that the freeways are going to be busy, but all of a sudden there's an accident up ahead, and now they realize, my Lord, I'm going to be 10 minutes more into this drive, into this morning commute than I had anticipated. And so you start to see them change lanes. You start to see them bump and, you know, honk and try to tailgate and try to move to the shoulders to get around the accident. You can tell that they're a little bit agitated. And sometimes there's so many accidents that you don't have time in one traffic, you know, reporting period to even make mention. You know, sometimes the news director's in my ear saying, "Al, please, no traffic dissertations this morning." Don't give them a half-hour layout, a whole story of what's going on. But invariably what happens is that we have such a great economy here in Colorado that we're having a lot of people from the south come up where they're not accustomed to snow. We have a lot of California drivers that are coming here. And so the first time that we have a snowfall or the roads are icy, all of a sudden they're not accustomed to that driving. A great example of this was an accident. I was at a stoplight, and there was a lady. It was the first time we had some ice, and there was a lady who came up behind me, and she was doing 30 miles an hour, just like in dry road conditions. She saw me, she applied the brakes, and she did three donuts in the road and then slammed into me. And I said, you know, people, you know, I'm approaching this stop sign at 10 miles an hour or less, and she's approaching it at 30, thinking that at the last second she can just apply her brakes and stop.
Now, you've also traveled in Europe. How do we compare to what you see here?
I have to tell you a great story. You're much more, I think you're much more calm. I think you take it a lot better. I have to tell you a quick story. Years and years ago, I went to London to cover the rumor that Paul McCartney had died. And I luckily had met with Ringo Starr in the airport, who had recently been to Colorado. And he invited me over to Apple Records on Savile Row at that time. And I was staying at the, I think it was Grosvenor House in London. And I got the phone call that Paul McCartney and John Lennon, who was alive at that time, would see me. So I rushed with my equipment downstairs. I get into the cab with the doorman, and the mistake I made was I told the doorman, I said, "And if you could make it in a hurry, I'd appreciate it." And I will always remember that the doorman leaned into the cab and said, "The gentleman is obviously from America, and he is in a hurry to get to number 3 Savile Row. Obviously in the fog, no one hurries in London at night." And I will never forget that story. You're much more calm, you're much more tame. I think you take it well in stride, and I have fond memories of traffic in London.
Take me through some of the technology that enables you to monitor the traffic so successfully.
One of the wonderful things that we have is the Westcam camera. This is a $400,000 edition from Westcam. They've used this on a lot of the eco challenges where the helicopters can actually zoom in. This camera, if you look at it, has a 66-to-1 power. And it's not infrared, but it allows us to take the ambient light. We can open up the iris at night. We can take the ambient light from the street lights and from the car lights, and we can almost turn that darkness. If you were to look at the ground with the naked eye, you couldn't see anything, but through the camera, you can see birds moving, you can see branches moving. You can't see wires, but you can see movement in an area that's pitch black. It takes the ambient light and it just magnifies it.
Evening rush hours in metropolitan Denver are becoming increasingly difficult. We use a term here, gridlock, and I'm sure you probably use the same term over in England, gridlock. There's just too many cars and too few lanes, and what you're seeing is just the ribbons of white light and the ribbons of red light, obviously depending on which position we're in the helicopter. And then when you get an accident, it's absolutely devastating. It can take you anywhere from an hour to 2 hours if we get one of our major highways and one of our interstates backed up. It can take as long as 1 to 2 hours to get home on an evening rush hour. Now you throw in a little winter weather and it's even worse than that. But we traditionally will get 1 or 2 accidents, as you're seeing right here, 1 or 2 accidents on our main north-south interstate, which is called Interstate 25, which goes from the south of the state, goes through the whole entire state of Colorado, and the other one is C470, which is in an area that has enjoyed in the last 5 years just tremendous development, one of the fastest growing counties in all of the United States.
At 1,000 feet as we fly, we can read your name tag.
Wow. And the other thing that's astonishing about this is that the helicopter naturally is moving all the time.
It's moving all the time.
But the image is steady, so
it's rock steady.
Yeah.
And it's what's funny is that Tony, my partner, who flies in the back seat with us, will sometimes say, you know, we're getting bumped around up here because the winds are 40, 50 knots, you know, and we're flying next to sometimes level 5, level 6 thunderstorms. We're not flying underneath them, but we're flying behind them. And you would never notice it with the camera. With the camera, this bulb here is actually all the internal organs are gyro stabilized. So the aircraft may be doing this, but the camera's rock steady.
Yeah.
Rock steady.
They are
and
fantastic pictures.
this camera has the capability where you can actually have an auto track where once you lock on the target, the computer will actually follow the target.
Huh.
This goes 180 degrees up and down and 360 degrees around. And the beauty of this is that with a 66-to-1 ratio in power, we can stand back 5 or 6 miles and we can zoom in to a subject where you can see almost right into a building that's burning. I mean, we tell firefighters, you know, we're up there with a camera, call us. If you think that there's fire coming through the roof, we can just make one pass and we can see exactly what's going on. If there is a missing person, I mean, this is wonderful. We can take the camera and we can search an entire area and are able to tell the rescue workers, you know, if anybody's there or not.
Wow, that's fantastic.